अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। संसारदावानललीढलोकत्राणाय कारुण्यघनाघनत्वं प्राप्तस्य कल्याणगुणार्णवस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम्। साक्षाद् हरित्वेन समस्तशास्त्रैः उक्तस्तथा भाव्यत एव सद्भिः किन्तु प्रभोर्यः प्रिय एव तस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम्। यस्य प्रसादात् भगवत्प्रसादो यस्याप्रसादान्न गति कुतोऽपि ध्यायन् स्तुवन् सस्य यशस्त्रिसन्ध्यम् वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम्। Sarvebhyo Namaha. Welcome to this session. We are now in the middle of the 18th chapter. We have completed 40 shlokas until the last session. Today we are going to look at 8 more shlokas from 41 to 48. Before going into today's shlokas, let me do a quick recap of what we have learned in the last few sessions. In the last session in particular, we concluded our discussion on Prakriti and the 3 gunas, how they influence different aspects of human life. As we did that overview, we summarized by saying that the Bhagavad-Gita pivots or revolves around the understanding of Sri Bhagavan as the universal being, the all-encompassing universal being or God, of whom all of us, all living beings are a part. So through him, we are all connected to each other. We are called the Jivatma. We are the minute living beings. Or you can say, if Bhagavan is considered infinite, we are infinitesimal. Infinite and infinitesimal. So we are the infinitesimal living beings who are a part of Bhagavan. We are not actually separate from him, but we are distinct from him. Even though we are a part of him, we are distinct from him. And then the third major concept in Bhagavad Gita is Prakriti. So the Bhagavad Gita is effectively about these 3. Sri Bhagavan, the Jivatma, and Prakriti. You can say, if you want to have an ontological summary of Bhagavad Gita, then you can say the ontology revolves or is comprised of 3 pillars: Bhagavan, Jivatma, and Prakriti. So now, Bhagavan and Jivatma are both conscious living beings. Both are Atma. The word Atma is used to denote both of them. Bhagavan is Paramatma, Jiva is Jivatma. Whereas Prakriti is non-conscious or non-sentient. In English, we use the word sentience. Sentience means consciousness. So Jivatma or the Atma in general has got consciousness, whereas Prakriti is matter. It doesn't have consciousness. It's this Bahiranga Shakti. It's also a Shakti of Bhagavan, but it's called as Bahiranga Shakti. It is matter. It doesn't have consciousness and it's continuously transforming. The Atma has no transformation. So all the 3 of them are related to each other. Now, this is an important figure. In this, it shows how the Jivatma is in between the Bhagavan and Prakriti. Now, owing to the association of Prakriti, because of absorption in Prakriti, the Jivatma goes into what is called as samsara, material existence. In material existence, the Jivatma experiences different types of desirable and undesirable states, happy states, sad states, and alternates between them. The Jivatma wants to experience continuous happiness, but is unable to figure out how to do that. So even though it wants to experience continuous happiness and tries to do that all the time, it ends up encountering misery every now and then. The solution given in the Bhagavad Gita is that, okay, this is because your association with Prakriti has been going on since eternity. Now, if you turn towards Bhagavan, then you can stop your association with samsara. You can come out of samsara. And by connecting with Bhagavan, who is eternally having the experience of happiness, Bhagavan's continuous experience is an experience of happiness and joy. Naturally, you will also feel that way. You will also develop that same consciousness. You will also become free from the impurity or the contamination of Prakriti in your consciousness. So the Jivatma's consciousness, which is always present in the Jivatma, actually is pure. It is filled with knowledge. It is Jnana Swarupam, means its knowledge is ever present. Similarly, along with knowledge, happiness is also ever present. The Jivatma only has to discover that. It is not that by turning to Bhagavan, uh, consciousness now develops new knowledge. Knowledge is already present. That knowledge is being discovered. So in Bhagavad Gita, in the 17th and 18th chapters, we saw how Prakriti, the three gunas of Prakriti, how they influence 12 different aspects of human existence. These 12 aspects were covered, and in the 18th chapter alone, 7 of these 12, the last 7, are covered. And we concluded our discussion on the last of them, that is Sukham, or happiness, in the last session. So we did all this in the last session, and then we also saw this table in the last session where we contrasted the influence of the three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas, on human beings in terms of 4 dimensions, how they transform the consciousness along these 4 dimensions in terms of the life purpose and goals, the mental state of the person, the outward orientation, and the personal inclinations like likings, dislikings, and things like that. So this table actually is very revealing to us because through this we can cognize where we are at present. It's for our individual benefit. It's not for criticizing others. It's for understanding where we are and changing ourselves. It's an attempt to take ourselves towards a state of better happiness than we experience at present, and happiness which sustains. And thereby, if we are able to do that for ourselves, then we can also help others to do that, or have others to achieve that. We can bring others also to it. So therefore, by becoming more sattvic, how can we become more sattvic, and where are we at present? This table can help us to identify that. So now, we did all this in the last session. Now going forward, in the 8 shlokas that we are going to do today, we are going to understand the role of svabha. The word svabha is a key word in today's class. What is meant by svabha, and how svabha plays a role in the way in which society is meant to be designed. Now, in the Indian knowledge system, the society was structured in a particular manner, and that was aligned to the concept of svabha. It was based on the concept of svabha. So how does svabha inform society or social organization? We're going to read that today. And what implication does it have for us today? That also we will discuss. So if you recollect, in the beginning of the 17th chapter, we saw this figure. We learned about how svabha refers to the accumulation of samskara. Okay, so what is meant by samskara? We learned these words, anubhava, samskara, vasana, and karma. Anubhava refers to experience. Now, as we go through our existence, both in this life and what we have been through in all our past lives, we've been through experiences. Ultimately, existence is all about experience. All the time, we are experiencing something. So we go through various types of experiences, and experiences create impressions. Anubhava basically is experience. Experience actually is a form of knowledge. In Indian knowledge systems, experience is the basic form of knowledge. Knowledge is essentially experience. So we experience something, and that is the experience of knowledge. So every experience we have essentially is a kind of cognition, is a kind of experience of knowledge. And that creates what is called as samskara. Now, the experience itself does not last permanently, it doesn't linger. It lasts only for that moment when it comes. You experience it at that moment, and then it's over. Once the experience is over, it's over. It doesn't linger. But it leaves behind what is called as samskara within us. That samskara moves with the atma in the samsara. As it goes through material existence, that samskara, that impression created by experience, moves with the atma. And that samskara, as it accumulates over lifetimes, the good and bad experiences, the impressions created by them, as they accumulate over lifetimes, they shape the inherent character of that personality. That is called svabha, that inherent nature or inherent personality. Okay, whatever appropriate word you can use, inherent character. Svabha refers to that. That's deep rooted inside. So the word svabha also has an implication for when we come into a particular birth. Let us say we come into this particular birth. All of us are in our current birth, right, at any point of time. So we came into this birth at a particular point of time. And when we came into birth, we carried with us the accumulated samskaras of all our past births. So our svabha is the sum total of all of that. All of those samskaras determined the svabha, the inherent nature with which we are born. So each of us is born with a particular svabha. The svabha refers to the nature with which we are born. That's another meaning of that word svabha, inherent nature with which we are born. And so that influences the tendencies, the orientations, the dispositions that we have. Clearly, we know very well that all living beings don't have, or all human beings don't have identical dispositions. Everybody. That's why there's such a big field called psychology, which studies so much variety that we see around us in terms of people's dispositions, their mindsets, their mentalities, their characters, natures, etc. So many different words are used. So vasana is one level, you can say, explication of samskara and svabhava. And that in turn determines the actions that people do, right? So this logic, this whole framework is the basis for the way in which society is designed or social organization is done in the Indian system. So how is it done? So swabhava and guna. So three gunas. Swabhava, like I said, is an accumulation of the past samskaras. And these samskaras ultimately lead to the way in which the gunas influences. The influences of the three gunas are an outcome of these samskaras. And they in turn influence swabhava. So there is a mutual interaction between both of them. The svabhava determines the way in which the gunas influences, and in turn, they attract future influences of gunas on them. So they both interact with each other. So svabhava and guna have a close connection between them, and that in turn determines the jati, the particular, you can say, social group in which we are born. That's called jati, and then the concept of varna, and then karma. I'll explain that now. So we have sattva guna. Now, when a child is born, predominantly a human child, predominantly in sattva guna, when sattva guna is predominant in that child, now by natural arrangement, it's understood that that child is born as a brahmana. Or you can say the other way, if a child is born in the family of a brahmana, traditionally, it is expected to have a high degree of sattva in it. Brahmana is supposed to have a high degree of sattva. So this is by birth. Varna refers to the social group which is in accordance with guna and karma. There, by itself, varna doesn't refer to the involvement of birth, but it's expected that a child born in a Brahmana family or a Brahmana group is meant to show the guna and karma or do the karma of a Brahmana. So this mapping between jati and varna is implied or expected, you can say, although it need not be observed in all cases. It is expected to be there. I'll tell you the reason also why it's expected to be there. So a Brahmana, by their varna, is expected to be involved in the karma of academics, of learning, teaching, etc. And sattva is favorable for that. Sattva is very favorable for academics. Or academics, good academics expect sattva, clarity of thought and so on. Similarly, when sattva and rajas together are dominant, then the Kshatriya varna, it maps on to the Kshatriya jati and varna. A child born as a Kshatriya is influenced by both sattva and rajas, and therefore its gunas, the influence of gunas is different from that of a Brahmana. And the karma accordingly is of a different type. It's not predominantly academics, although Kshatriyas also can do good academics. They can do even better when they do governance, protection, and so on. The third is rajas plus tamas, the combination of rajas plus tamas. And this jati varna combination is called Vaishya. So the Vaishyas, in them, they are expected to have predominantly rajas and tamas, and that is favorable for business, doing business, trading, and so on. And so they form that particular group forms the economic, the substratum of society. And finally, tamas, the Shudra is expected to be predominantly in tamas. So somebody who's predominantly tamas is expected to be in the group called Shudra. And they are supposed to do support activities for all the other three varnas. So this framework is the way in which society is defined, and it is not something that is unnatural. It is very natural that in any society, even if you don't use these words, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra are words found in the Indian knowledge system. But even if these words are not used, even if nobody knows about them, even if nobody knows that in India this was the way it was structured. This is naturally found in all societies. In all societies, we have these four classes of occupations, very broadly speaking. You can say people doing intellectual work, intellectuals, academic work, the genuine academics, people whose only focus is on knowledge, the concepts, and creating new knowledge, teaching and spreading knowledge, and so on. Then there is a class interested in ruling, governing others, putting laws, or developing laws and ensuring that laws are implemented and properly followed, and ensuring the citizens are protected, etc. For some people, it comes naturally. They are in that. And of course, there's a huge business community, which is important to maintain the economics of the society. And then there are also people who don't belong to any of the other three, but play a supportive role. A lot of people, they form the bottom of the pyramid, and they are naturally there because they are, they probably cannot do any of the other three as well as they can do the fourth kind of item, supportive activity for the other three people. So this is naturally existing. So this classification is not something imposed by some set of people with some dogmatic beliefs, but it's something that naturally emerges. And in India, in the Indian knowledge system, in the Vedic knowledge system, it came to be known like this. Now, in these 8 shlokas that we are going to look at, we are going to study the same thing in much more detail. And then we will come back and sum it up. We'll link it back to what we are seeing in this particular slide. This slide is a kind of a overview of what we're going to do, a preface. So going forward, we'll do the 41st shloka now of the 18th chapter. Here, Brahmana Kshatriya Visham Shudranam cha parantapa Karmani pravibhaktani svabha prabhavair gunaihi. So here just Sri Bhagavan introduces by saying that now I'm going to talk about the 4 varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishyas. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Visham means Visha. Here word is used for Vaishyas. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. And for these 4 of them, the activities, karmani pravibhaktani, how the activities have been classified or categorized. And not arbitrarily, but svabhava prabhavaihi gunaihi. Swabhavat swabhavam yasmat prabhavati, or swabhava yasmat prabhavati, swabhava prabhavaha gunaha. Means from the guna, the swabhava comes. And vice versa. Swabhavena prabhavate gunaha. So from swabhava, the guna is emerging. The guna emerges. So both are interdependent, right? They mutually reinforce each other. The swabhava prabhavaihi gunaihi. So swabhava and guna are connected to each other. And karma is on the basis of that. The karma prescribed is meant to be on the basis of that. Okay, this is very, very important. Shamodamas shaucham kshantirarjavameva cha jnanam vijnanamastikyam brahma karma swabhavajam. So he begins with describing the activities prescribed for the Brahmana on the basis of the Brahmana swabhava. Shamaha. Shamaha means restraining. Restraining what? The senses, the inner senses, which includes the mind. So in senses also we categorize into antarindriyam and bahirindriyam. So antarindriyam refers to the mind, the subtle, very subtle senses, the mind, the intelligence, buddhi, maha buddhi, ahankara. Then the restraint, damaha. Damaha refers to restraint of the external senses. Shamaha, internal senses. Damaha, external senses. External senses are the jnanendriyas, karmendriyas. The jnanendriyas include the 5 knowledge acquiring senses. The sense of speech, the sense of taste, the sense of smell, the sense of sight, the sense of hearing, and the sense of touch. The 5 knowledge acquiring senses. And then the 5 action producing senses, karmendriyam. That is the sense of speech, the larynx, and then the hands and the legs. The 2 hands together is considered one sense, the 2 legs, and then which actually not the organs, but the inner, there's something inner, subtle element inside which corresponds to the hands, which corresponds to the activities the hands do. Similarly, the subtle element inside which corresponds to the activities the legs do. So it's not referring to the the physical organs themselves. Similarly, there are two senses for evacuation, the genitals and the anus. So these are for evacuation purposes and reproduction. So these senses are called the karmendriyam. They do different types of activities which are required for the human being or for living beings in general. So these 10 senses are the external senses, bahirindriyam, and restraining them, restraint of them, regulating them, engaging them in a very regulated, disciplined manner is called dhamma, not loosely, not arbitrarily. Then tapaha. Tapaha means austerity. Again, austerity not arbitrarily, but in accordance with Shastra, the way Shastra prescribes austerity, tapas. We have discussed that many times. Shaucham, again, antashaucham, bahishaucham. Antashaucham refers to the internal cleanliness, the cleanliness, purity of the mind, and so on. And bahishaucham, the cleanliness of the body. Kshantihi means tolerance, tolerance, endurance, tolerance, putting up with difficulty, discomfort, sustaining that discomfort and going through it, going beyond that discomfort to achieve an objective. It's called kshanti. Arjavam, simplicity. So, shamo damas tapas shaucham, kshantir arjavam evacha, jnanam, vijnanam. So, jnanam refers to, going forward, jnanam refers to theoretical understanding of the Shastra, the liking for that activity, to study the Shastra, study concepts, understand theory, appreciation of that, enjoyment, liking that. Similarly, Vijnanam refers to practical wisdom drawn from this understanding, drawn from the Shastra, based on the Shastra, applying it, applying that knowledge in practice, living that life of Vijnana. That's called Vijnana. Then Astikyam. Astikyam literally means theism, belief in God, but here it means Astikyam in the context of the Indian knowledge system refers to acceptance of the Veda as the primary source of knowledge, as the basis for all knowledge, right? So Astikyam, conviction in the Shastra. So Shastra means the Mula Shastram is Veda, and everything else is a elaboration on that, is an explication of the Veda. So conviction that what that is telling me is good for me and good for the world as a whole. That conviction, that's called astikya. So all of these put together are the predominant qualities expected in a Brahman. Brahma karma svabhavajam, qualities and activities. You can see both are mentioned here, activities that the Brahmana should do and the corresponding qualities which support those activities. It's endowed with those qualities that the Brahmana performs those activities. So shamodamas tapashaucham, kshandirarjavam evacha, jnanam vijnanam astikyam, brahma karma svabhavajam. So you can think now this is defined for the social group called Brahmana, but it's not referring to just somebody who is born as a Brahmana. It's referring to somebody who is meant to perform the activity of a Brahmana, not somebody who just says, I'm born as a Brahmana, right? Somebody who takes the responsibility and says, I will do this. I will live this kind of a life and I'll be responsible for unearthing pure knowledge and transmitting it in society for the benefit of all. Okay, with taking as little in return as possible. So if that kind of commitment and responsibility is present, that person is called a Brahmana. That person plays the role of a Brahmana. So it's referring to that kind of person. So you can say in general, these qualities are favorable to anybody who has that kind of a commitment to them. Okay, next. Shauryam tejo dhritir daksham yuddhe chapya palayanam tanam ishvara bhavascha kshatram karma swabhavajam. Shauryam tejo dhritir daksham yuddhe chapya palayanam tanam ishvara bhavascha kshatram karma swabhavajam. Shauryam means valor. Okay, valor, or you can say courage, being brave. Tejaha. Tejaha means boldness, confidence, okay, fearlessness. You can say the confidence that I can do it in a difficult situation. I can go and face that situation. Tejas. Dhritihi. Dhritihi refers to resolve or steadiness, being steady, even in very difficult situations. not shaking up, not getting shaken. Then dakshyam, dakshata. Dakshyam refers to skill or expertise, being able to do whatever work in a skilled and expert manner. Yuddhe cha api apalayanam. Apalayanam. Palayanam means fleeing or running away. Apalayanam means not running away. So even in a very difficult fight, okay, we know so many examples in Mahabharata, for example, what comes to mind immediately is say Abhimanyu. Abhimanyu very boldly, you see all these qualities in him, goes very valorously, boldly, very strength, goes into the middle of a group of warriors who are much more experienced than him, much older than him, experienced than him. But he is well trained and he's confident that whatever training and powers that he has acquired by his training and practice can help him to vanquish all these people. And he has no fear that he'll get killed. Absolutely, he will never run away. He goes inside, fights there, does to the maximum what he can, and finally he is vanquished. He's not afraid of that. He's not afraid of death. Okay, this is a quality of Kshatriya. You see that in many other Kshatriyas too. Similarly, Dhanam. Dhanam means the willingness to give in charity. Okay, we have discussed Dhanam in great detail. Dana means giving in charity with happiness, means giving with a great deal of willingness, with a lot of eagerness to give to others. Okay, that mentality, Dhanam. And Ishvara Bhava. Ishvara Bhava means the mentality with which the person enjoys governing others, being a master of a group of people, being a master of a kingdom, or being a master of even of a village, whatever, being a leader, being a person whom others will follow. Okay, that people who enjoy that. Okay, that's called Ishvara Bhava, liking to do that. Ishvara Bhava. So these are all the qualities of a Kshatriya. A person who has these qualities is suitable to be a Kshatriya, is eligible to be a Kshatriya. So Shauryam Tejo Dhritir Dakshyam Yuddhe Chapya Palayanam Danam Ishvara Bhavascha Kshatram Karma Swabhavajam Krishi Gaurakshya Vanijyam Vaishya Karma Swabhavajam Paricharyatmakam Karma Shudrasyapi Swabhavajam Krishi Gaurakshya Vanijyam Vaishya Karma Swabhavajam Paricharyatmakam Karma Shudrasyapi Swabhavajam. So both Vaishya and Shudra are described in the same shloka here. Krishihi means agriculture. Gauraksha means literally meaning protecting the cow or protecting cattle. Vanijyam means trade, business, doing business, buying and selling. Vanijyam, trading. Vaishya karma swabhavajam. So this comes naturally to Vaishyas and it is meant to be done by Vaishyas. Finally, paricharya. Paricharya means service. Paricharya. Paricharya means charanam. Charanam means activity, or charya means activity. Paricharya means doing activity which helps others, assists others, assistance, support, not just arbitrary activity, but activity which takes into account what others want. Others want this. Okay, it will make that person happy. It will fulfill that person's need. So let me do that. That is called paricharya. Paricharyatmakam karma. A Shudra is meant to do that karma. So what comes to mind immediately is the birth of Narada. Okay, what Narada Muni, we have heard this story earlier when Narada, how he became Narada. Okay, he was not Narada at one point of time, but how he became Narada. Before he became Narada, what was he? So three births are described in the Bhagavatam. The first birth is that of a Gandharva. Of course, before a Gandharva also he must have had many births because Jivatma in samsara has got infinite births before it gets mukti. So at one point of time he was a Gandharva. That was the third last birth. And as a Gandharva is a being which is higher than a Manava. So we are all Manava, human beings. Okay, we are called humans in Western language, but in the Vedic language we are called Manava. So higher beings of a higher consciousness. Okay, there are many of them. So one of them is called Gandharva, one category. And these Gandharvas have different types of powers with them, and they're supposed to be very good at music. That's one of their expertises. So Narada was a Gandharva. And so being a Gandharva, he was once invited along with a group of other Gandharvas to some party. Not a party actually, it was to to a function where there were very saintly people, great sages had come there, and they were performing some kind of yajnas and so on. And so he was invited there to do kirtan, bhajan, because they are Gandharvas, they can sing well. So in that occasion, it's described that he, being that Gandharva, was somehow behaving very loosely. There were women, apsaras, and so on. So they were singing and dancing, and there was loose behavior. So seeing that loose behavior, some of the saintly people who were there, they curse him and they say that you will go to earth. You'll be born as a human being and you'll be born as a Shudra, not as a Brahmana, but as a Shudra. And you will live that life. So with that curse, he takes birth as a Shudra. He is the son of a woman, and his father dies at a very young age, probably before he's born. So he doesn't see his father, so he's brought up by his mother. So he's living with his mother, who is a Shudra, who is also a Shudra. So she is engaged in paricharya. And it's described that once, when there were some great sages who were passing through the village in which they were living, they stayed in a place close to their house. And these people, the Shudra boy's mother and him, they got an opportunity to do seva to those sages. So he describes how those sages were actually bhaktas, Vishnu bhaktas. They were Vaishnavas, and they were actually worshipping Vishnu. And they were staying there during the Chaturmasya period. The Chaturmasya period is the rainy season. It's about to begin now for this year. The monsoon has just begun here. So during the Chaturmasya, the sannyasis, they don't travel. They stay in one place. And so during that time, they observe different kinds of vratas. They observe different types of fasting. They stay away from certain kinds of food selectively in different months, etc., etc. They do a lot of puja. So this boy and his mother got an opportunity to serve those sannyasis. And as they were doing service, this little boy in particular took a lot of interest. He became attracted to the kind of topics they were discussing. They were discussing about Bhagavan, his different gunas, his qualities, his leelas. And they would eat food, prasadam, and they would leave the food behind for him to have. So he would eat the leftover of that. And that's considered as Mahaprasad. Prasad is what we offer to Bhagavan. And after offering to Bhagavan, if a great saintly person with a very pure heart eats that food as prasad and leaves behind something, and that's something that's left behind by that personality, is called Mahaprasad. And if that is had, it is said that that can completely transform the consciousness of a person. And so that's what happens to that little boy. So by hearing those Bhagavad Katha and listening to all the details that they describe, and then eventually having their Mahaprasad, he becomes very deeply attracted to Vishnu, very, very deeply attracted to Vishnu. So it is described in the Bhagavatam that he got the kripa of the bhakta there. And because of that, eventually what happens is they leave and go. Their Chaturmasya is over and they go away. They go their way. And the boy now is completely lost in thinking about Vishnu. And at that point of time, his mother, one evening, when she goes to milk the cow, she gets bitten by a snake and she dies. So suddenly, at the age of 5, at this point of time, this boy is just 5 years of age. Although he's only 5, he's deeply absorbed in God. His mind is completely in Vishnu. All the time he's thinking about him. So his mother is now no more. So he has no one to live with. So he just goes away from there. And he describes in first person what happened. He walks, 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 walks. He goes through so many towns, villages. He sees lakes, rivers, this and that. And finally, after a long period of walking, he reaches a forest. And in that forest, he is very tired. So he goes and he searches for a river. Finally, he finds a river and he takes bath in the river. He freshens himself up and then he goes and sits and he meditates on Vishnu because that's what he's always doing. So he sits down and he contemplates on Vishnu. And as he contemplates on Vishnu, his meditation becomes so intense that Vishnu appears before him and his meditation breaks and he suddenly sees Vishnu in front of him. And then Vishnu says to him that I'm very pleased with your conduct. I've come before you and you will come to me at the end of this life. In this life now, you will not see me anymore, but you will always be absorbed in me. You will do all activities connected to me and you will live a full life as a human being. At the end of this life, you will come to me. So then Vishnu vanishes from there. After that point, the boy's intensity of bhakti becomes much, much stronger. And he goes about talking about Vishnu, singing his songs, whatever. He lives that whole life like that. And at the end of his life, he leaves that body and he gets the body of Narada. So what we know today as Narada went through these two births before. And today he is Narada, and that's his eternal Swarupa. Means he gets that Swarupa, that's called Swarupa. So once he gets that Swarupa, once a Mukta Atma gets that Swarupa, then it doesn't change. So he is now Narada, and that's his eternal Swarupa. That's how we know him. So Paricharya. So Paricharya was what that Shudra boy who is now Narada did along with his mother to those sages. So Paricharya. So by doing Paricharya, the Shudra benefits. Okay, because that is what he is good at. And the people to whom he does Paricharya are normally happy with that. They do in such a way that those people are also very happy. Now, going forward, now this portion is very important. The next four shlokas that we're going to do sum up this discussion and tell us why it is important to do one's prescribed duties. Sve sve karmanyabhiratah samsiddhim labhate naraha swakarma niratas siddhim yatha vindati tatshunu. He says sve sve karmani abhiratah. So a person who is engaged in the duties prescribed for them, samsiddhim labhate, attains perfection. Samsiddhi means perfection of life. What is perfection of life here in Bhagavad Gita? Perfection of life means self-realization. Realization of our pure self, the knowledge that is always present in us. That pure knowledge and happiness that's present in us, realizing that is called Atma Avalokanam, self-realization. And God realization, understanding that we are a part of that universal being. So both happen together. So this is called samsiddhi. And how is that samsiddhi achieved? In this shloka, it is explained that sve sve karmani abhirataha. By doing the activity meant for one's own prescribed varna. Doing that particular activity, one gets perfection. Swakarma nirataha siddhim yatha vindati tatshunu. So how does that happen? Now listen to me. Yatha vindati means how does that experience come about? By doing one's own activity, by doing the activity prescribed for one's own varna. How does perfection come? Tat shrunu. Please listen to me. Please hear me describe that. Yatah pravrittir bhutanam yena sarvamidam tatam swakarmana tam abhyarchya siddhim vindati manavaha. So the first reason he says is that this happens because by doing your activity, by doing the activity prescribed for you, you actually are worshipping that Supreme Being. That Bhagavan is worshipped by doing the activity meant for you. So by doing the activity that is given to you sincerely, thoroughly, you actually worship that person. By worshipping that person, naturally you will become like that person. You get perfection. Yataha pravrittihi bhutanam. Who is that person? Yataha bhutanam pravrittihi. Pravrittihi means you can say existence, activities. That's the meaning of the word pravrittihi. From whom the existence and the activities of all living beings comes, or from whom the existence and activities of all living beings come, that person, which means the Supreme Being, the Supreme Universal Being, yena, by whom, sarvamidam tatam, by whom everything is pervaded, who pervades everything, who is all pervasive. Swakarmana, by one's own work, not aparakarmana. Aparakarmana means by doing another person's work. Swakarmana means by doing one's own work. Tam abhyarcha, by worshipping that person. Siddhim vindati manava. By doing that worship, one gets perfection. In other words, one should do one's work as worship. Work is worship. In English also there is a saying, no? You can see that reflected here. Okay, so by doing one's work as a worship of that Supreme Being, as a worship of God, by doing that work as a worship of God, which is the essence of Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is all about that. Karma Yoga means doing one's work with detachment, offering the fruits of all of one's work to Bhagavan. That fruit is not for me. The work is for me. Responsibility of the work is mine. I'll do that work sincerely, but whatever comes from it, actually it's meant to be used for his service. So that thinking is what is reflected here. This is the essential principle of karma yoga. So swakarmana tam abhyarcha siddhim vindati manava. By doing that, one gets perfection. So as a corollary, he says, Shreyan swadharmo vigunaha paradharmat swanushthitat swabhavaniyatam karma kurvannapnoti kilbisham. So this shloka is so important that the first half of this shloka is repeated 2 times in Gita. It first comes in the 3rd chapter. In the 3rd chapter, Sri Bhagavan says, the first line is repeated there, or it first comes there, it is repeated here. It says, Shreyan swadharmo vigunaha paradharmat swanushthitat swadharme nidhanam shreyaha paradharmo bhayavaha. So what does it mean? It says, Shreyan swadharmaha. One's own dharma, the dharma prescribed for oneself, the dharma prescribed for oneself according to one's svabha, according to one's varna. That dharma is superior, Shreyan. Shreyan means superior. Shreyan also means the best or excellent, the topmost. It can also mean, in a comparative sense, superior to something else. Shreyan. Shreyan swadharma vigunaha. Vigunaha means faulty. So what is it saying here? Shreyan swadharmo vigunaha means faulty work is superior? No, it says even if there is fault in one's work. So suppose one is doing one's work as a Brahmana or a Kshatriya or a Shudra or a Vaishya, whatever, okay, or even without these labels, even without calling yourself one of these 4 things, whatever it is you are doing your occupation. Now, this occupation you have chosen because it naturally comes to you. It's according to your natural inclination, your liking. You find yourself doing it in the best possible way. That work is the most suitable for you, so you do it. Now, you may do that work with mistakes, but vigunaha paradharmatu svanushthitat. It is better to do that even with mistakes than doing somebody else's work perfectly. Paradharmaha svanushtitaha. Svanushtitaha paradharmaha, that is not superior. Doing another person's work perfectly is inferior to doing one's own work even defectively, even faultily. That is the importance of focusing on one's own work. Okay, so this is the meaning of the first line, and this is said in the 3rd chapter. In the 3rd chapter, that shloka's second line is Swadharme nidhanam shreyaha. Dying, death, nidhanam means death. Dying or death in doing one's own work is superior or is beneficial. Shreyaha means beneficial. It gives benefit. But paradharmo bhayavaha. But going and doing another person's work is fearsome. Bhayavaha means it brings fear. It is a cause of fear, future fear. In simple language, focusing on one's own work gives punya, it gives good benefit, it gives positive results in the future. But leaving one's work and doing somebody else's work only creates papa. It gives suffering in the future. So focus on your work. That's the point being said. That is the 3rd chapter. Now, in this chapter, the second line, svabhava niyatam karma kurvanna na apnoti kilmisha. Essentially the same thing he says, by doing the work that is prescribed according to one's svabhava niyatam karma, doing the work that is prescribed according to one's svabhava, na apnoti kilbisham. One does not get kilbisha. Kilbisha means sin, literally means sin or papa. Or you can say undesirable outcome, unhappiness, misery, all these things. They're all synonyms of each other. That doesn't come. By doing one's own work, even if it is done with mistakes, one does not get papa. Of course, the mistake that happens should not be mistake out of negligence. If you do neglectfully, in the sense intentionally, you do say, I don't care. Anyway, now a Bhagavad-gita has told me that even if I do faultily, it's all right. So chalega yaar, jo bhi karo. No, that's not the mentality. The mentality is you do it sincerely, but like Bhagavan will now tell that by doing work, in the course of doing work, mistakes come. Okay, like we say while writing a book or writing a paper, like in the case of all of you, you are writing term papers, you're writing a journal paper. Now, I'll tell you, I'll guarantee one thing from my own experience in writing and publishing. How much ever effort you put, eventually, there will be some mistake or the other. There will be one small spelling mistake somewhere, or there will be some article missing. One the will be missing in the sentence. Okay, or an will be missing. Instead of an, you would have put a somewhere. Okay, there will always be, how much ever you do, you will find, you'll realize this is called printer's devil in the Western lingo. How much ever you do proofreading, you do proofreading, correction, you get it reviewed by so many experts, they'll give you comments, you do everything. Even after all that, some mistake will still be there. So that is the beauty of reality. Reality, sometimes is so beautiful that you can't avoid it. Even though you want to avoid it, you can't avoid it. So therefore, the aim is to be perfect. You do it as sincerely as possible, but then still mistakes will come. But even if mistakes come, no, don't worry, you will not suffer. There'll be no suffering. But if you went into some other work, and let's assume theoretically that you did it perfectly and there were no mistakes in that, or at least you thought like that and you went and did that work. But definitely, even if you do it perfectly, even if you do it better than the way that you could have done your own work, you will still get papa because it's not meant to be done by you. So that is the way in which Bhagavad Gita orients us. And then Sri Bhagavan sums up the whole discussion by saying, Sahajam karma kaunteya sadoshamapi na tyajet sarvarambha hi doshena dhume nagdir ivavrita. He says, just like fire is covered by smoke. Okay. The fire actually, why do we light a fire? Because we want heat from the fire. That's why we light a fire. Sometimes we light a fire because we want light from the fire. Sometimes we light it because we want heat from it, or we want both. So now, very often, the fire that we light is covered by smoke. Now, typically, at least traditionally, fire was created by burning things like wood, right? Wood or charcoal. And typically, these things, these kinds of fuels, will also produce smoke. When they burn, they don't only produce the fire, they also produce smoke along with fire. Right? And that's why in Navya Nyaya, this example of dhumat vannihi. Okay, yatra yatra dhumaha tatra tatra vannihi. This example is the most common or the most basic example given to explain logical inference, the process of nyaya, anumana or anumana prayoga. Um, it's explained with the example fire and smoke, because fire and smoke are inseparable. Right? Wherever there is smoke, that means there is fire. Of course, there can be fire without smoke. There cannot be smoke. In Nyaya, it's explained that there cannot be smoke without fire, but there can be fire without smoke sometimes. Okay, but coming back to this point here, the point being made here is that very often fire is covered with smoke. And even then, through that fire, we don't mind because we get what we want. We get the light we want, we get the heat we want. So we don't mind the smoke. And that fire is successful in doing what it's supposed to do. And similarly, he says, Sarvarambahi doshena dhumena agnihiva avritaha. All activities, sarve arambaha, all activities, all initiatives that we do are covered with defect, are laced with defect. There will always be something wrong or the other. Okay, so this statement is made not to sound pessimistic. It's not that, okay, don't try for perfection. No point trying for perfection because anyway there's going to be some defect. No. Try for perfection, but don't get disappointed when there are defects. Defects will come. Try for perfection, correct the defects when you find them, and keep going. That's the meaning. Okay, so he says, because of that, sahajam karma kaunteya sadosham api na tyajet. Sahajam means that which is born with you. Sahaja means janmana saha yat jayate. Okay, janmana saha yat vartate sahajam, that which comes along with birth. So that which comes along with birth, like I explained, is our svabha. So svabhava niyatam karma, that which is prescribed by svabhava, he says, even if it is having some shortcomings in it, don't give it up, but stick to it, persevere with it, and you will eventually get perfection. Okay, so as I sum this up, now this sums up the discussion pertaining to karma yoga and how karma yoga takes into account multiple factors, the influence of the three gunas of prakriti, how they shape the inherent character of the person. Eventually, of course, one should try to come towards sattva, get rid of rajas and tamas. But the reality is that at any point of time, all the three gunas act upon us, and depending on what we have done in the past, one of the gunas or one or two of the gunas will be predominant in us, and therefore our tendencies and orientations are in a particular way, and we should go in alignment with that. We should choose the kind of activities which are in alignment with our svabha. We should not choose activities just because somebody else is choosing them. We should not choose activities just because they give us more money. Okay, more money or more fame. No, something may not give us more money or more fame, but something may give us just enough money and social acceptance. But it's something that we are more naturally inclined to, where we can do things that are more in accordance with our swabha. And that kind of work is what we should prefer. That's the essence of this. And there, so logically, intuitively, what is the intuition behind that? The intuition and the underlying logic of thinking is that by doing things which are more naturally aligned to us, it's like saying that if a squirrel cannot fly, then don't make it fly. It can climb trees, right? So there is this whole logic in education that everybody is not oriented towards everybody is not suitable for all subjects. So teach the subjects to a person for which they are made. People are made for certain types of subjects, and teach them that they should go into those streams. So the whole idea is if a person does things according to their svabha, then they will be perfect and they will be happy. Their mind will be peaceful. There'll be no conflict. They'll be able to work in a harmonious way. First of all, the harmony is within oneself, and then it's harmony with society. So both these kinds of harmony will be in a person if they are in a work that is in accordance with their svabha. So that's the whole underlying logic. So this gives us the basis for karma yoga. The thinking of karma yoga is based on all this. And eventually, karma yoga leads to jnana. The purpose of karma yoga is to take us towards that self-realization and the development of jnana or discovery of jnana within us. And so the next 7 shlokas that we're going to do in the next week's class will go into jnana yoga. From karma yoga, we move into jnana yoga. And eventually, at the end of jnana yoga is bhakti, where you give up even attachment to jnana, knowledge, and do bhakti. So we will conclude next week's 7 shlokas with the understanding of bhakti, bhakti yoga. So karma yoga, jnana yoga, and bhakti yoga, how they are three stages in the same long path. We will talk about all that in the next class. So with this much, I will stop for today, and I look forward to your questions, comments, etc. I sincerely hope that my audio was clear to all of you, that you could hear. There was no break. Like I said, I'm running from my mobile phone's data pack. It's not from the institute's Wi-Fi today. I'm not in the institute now.
So the audio, video, and the presentation, everything was perfectly clear.
Okay, good. Let's thank Reliance Geo for that. I'm running from a Reliance Geo pack. Yes, I'm sure that you'll have good questions today. The topic is very, very relevant. It should be mentioned. So a point I did not mention, which I think is very important, is that uh, the alignment between guna and karma is very important when we talk about varna. So a brahmana is a brahmana not by birth. Of course, the jati brahmana is always there, but actual brahmanatva is by their guna and the activities they do, and not by just by being born as a brahmana. Okay, so that's very important, particularly in today's context where we see many of us who are born as brahmana but not doing the activity of a brahmana. And so if we acknowledge that, yes, we don't deserve to be, really called a brahmana. Okay, we are brahmana on the application form. If somebody asks us, we may write brahmana, but we are not that really, right? It's only with that realization that we are ready to absorb this knowledge. We really learn something when we have that acceptance. We are able to accept that. And the same applies for people of any other varna too, not only for brahmanas, but any varna.
Pranam, sir. Sarthak here.
Yes, yes, Satak, yes.
Sir, just wanted to know if the etymology for Brahmana, does that arise from someone who is situated in Brahman, something like that?
Probably. Probably Brahmana could be Brahmanaha Ayam. I don't know. I have to check it up. I'm not sure. I'm just making a guess now. Someone who belongs to Brahman, or someone whose mind is absorbed in Brahman. Maybe.
Okay, sir. Sir, so in one of the previous classes, you had also talked about one of the Nitya Naimittika karmas of a Brahmana being the Agni Homa Yaga.
Agnihotra.
Agnihotra,
Agnihotra
sorry.
Yaga, of a Grihastha, yes. Of a
Yes, sir, I
Grihastha
just
Brahmana.
yes, sir, only a grihastha. I mean, you only a couple are supposed to be engaged in a traditional fire sacrifice, if my understanding is correct.
No, there are many different types of homas. There are many different types of yagas. The Agnihotra is prescribed in the Grihastha's life. Normally, a Grihastha is supposed to do that. It probably brahmacharis also learn that. They do it as a part of their thing. I'll have to check it out. There are so many different yagas that Brahmanas do, and they are done for different purposes, different types of results, and in different contexts and different stages of life. A Brahmana goes through all the four stages, right? Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa. So in different stages, they do different kinds of yagas at different times of the year, or different pujas and so on. Agnihotra is just one of them, one of the many of them.
Sir, could you please confirm this? Because what my limited or what my idea, what I have heard is that someone can perform a yaga only only in the grihastha ashram, as in when you are married.
No,
So
no. That doesn't apply to all yagas. Maybe some particular yagas are like that.
okay.
Basically, yaga is learned when one is a brahmachari in the Gurukul, right? From the Guru. The Guru teaches how to perform yaga. So, along with Guru, one assists the Guru in performing different types of yagas. The Guru may be a Grihastha. The Guru may not be a Grihastha also. He could be a sannyasi. If he is a Grihastha, then you will stay with him in his house with his wife and children and so on. But if he is not a Grihastha, then he will stay in his ashram wherever he is. That's also called a Gurukul. But that Guru will be engaged in different types of yagas. And so as a brahmachari, he learns the yagas by assisting the Guru, and then performs with the Guru, assists him and conducts yagas for the Guru. Similarly, when he becomes a vanaprastha in the future, after Grihastha Ashrama, there also he may conduct yagas. When he becomes a sannyasi too, he may conduct yagas, depending on the requirement. So it's not only in Grihastha Ashrama that yaga is conducted.
Sir, please correct me if I'm wrong, but if a Brahmana takes a sannyas diksha, so what I have heard is that they perform their own shraddha before getting into the sannyas ashram.
I see. Oh, okay. I have not heard this so far. I have not heard this so far. Maybe is it mentioned in Manusmriti or any other place? The sannyasi
No, sir.
performs their own shraddha.
Sir, I have not read this from a credible source, but this is some information that I had got on internet.
Okay.
So I'll have to verify this, but the sources were credible where I had heard this.
Okay. Okay. It could be. I have not gone into such details so far. Jayashree has raised her hand. We can ask her if she has something to say on this.
Yes, that Brahmana Shabda he asked, no? So just wanted to add, I checked in the dictionary also, it is a Tadhita Pratyaya, Brahmanasya Apatyam Brahmanaha.
Brahmanaha, say it again.
Brahmanasya Apatyam.
Brahmanasya, how can it come? It should be Brahmanaha, no?
Brahmanaha Apatyam Brahmanaha. It's a Tadhita
Brahmanaha
Pratyaya.
Apatyam Puman.
Yes.
Brahmanaha
Puman is
Apatyam
Brahman.
Puman. Okay.
Yes.
Born from Vishnu. Okay. Born from Brahman.
Born from Brahman.
Brahman. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
That is one thing. And this Shraddha thing that Sarthak was asking, what I know is the sannyasis, at least in the Madhva Sampradaya that I've heard and I've seen some videos also, they when they accept the sannyasa diksha, they have to do their own shraddha.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
they have to do that. And recently, the Sarthak, if you have seen the video of Kanchi Matha Swami took this one, no? Shishya. So there also they showed that he did his own Shraddha.
Okay.
So
Where is
that's
it
part
given,
of.
Jayashree? Where is it given?
No, I have not read. I have seen the video and I have heard the ritual being described as the sannyasi doing his own Shraddha.
Okay. Okay.
It's part of the rituals prescribed while accepting the sannyasa diksha.
Okay.
I've seen this recently in the video where the Kanchi Shankaracharya accepted a Shishya, no? So there he
Yeah.
did it. The
Okay.
Shishya did it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
you for sharing, ma'am.
Yeah,
Yes.
welcome.
That
So,
confirms for Sarthak, yes.
yeah, so again, in the line of this, so what again I have heard is that if you are performing your own Shraddha, then you are supposed to be away from all these fire sacrifices traditionally, because now you
Yeah.
have performed your own Shraddha. So in this body and mind, then you may not. If there is a case of next birth, then you may. But with this body and mind, with this sannyas diksha, people then refrain from performing fire sacrifices.
Yeah, possible.
Okay, on that point, Sarthak, I have heard some lectures from Bananjay Govindacharya. He's a Madhva scholar. So, Madhva Sampradaya scholar. So, I've heard him say that when a person takes a sannyasa diksha, he is not supposed to do any of the agnihotras that a grihastha does. But he has a separate set of sacrifices to be done. He doesn't do any of the rituals or nitya karmas which a normal grihastha or a brahmachari does. He is given a separate set of duties to perform.
Yes, so a sannyasi may get into jnana yajna or say in samadhi, going into the ashtanga yoga, like that.
It depends on the parampara in which the sannyasi takes the diksha. Depends on the parampara. It's not a generalized thing.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So if you take a diksha from Advaita Swami, then you have to go by that parampara only.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So you cannot discuss you cannot say that this is the rule for a sannyasi. You cannot write like that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for sharing, ma'am.
Yeah, welcome.
So one underlying question that remains is how do we apply it today? Because we are not aligning our work in terms of what a Brahmana does according to the Veda, what a Kshatriya does, Vaishya does. We don't even know there is something in the Veda there. So how do we actually apply these principles? Now, Karma Yoga is something which can be applied universally, even if we don't use these designations or don't do those specific activities. Karma Yoga is about working with detachment from the fruits and offering the results to Bhagavan. Acknowledgement, understanding that there is a universal being of whom I am a part, and everything that I do should be offered to him. Everything is for his pleasure, and in his happiness lies my happiness. With this understanding, if karma is done, then it becomes yoga, and then it becomes karma yoga. So there's a simple understanding of karma yoga, how it can be brought into the modern context. Applying the same principles, even if you're not doing those specific activities mentioned in the Veda, in the Shastra, right? That's how karma yoga can be brought into today's society, in our today's context, if somebody wants to do karma yoga. Of course, if one is doing bhakti yoga, this is something that I always add on, saying that karma yoga is not the best process for realizing Bhagwan, particularly in the Kali Yuga. In the Kali Yuga, bhakti yoga is given as a process. And bhakti yoga involves directly connecting with Bhagwan without thinking about one's identity as a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, or thinking about one's work as the means to go to God. One's existence itself is for His pleasure. One exists for His pleasure, so therefore, everything one does anyway is meant for His pleasure only. It's not merely about offering the results of the work to Him. It's not about attaining Him through one's work, but it's about doing everything for His pleasure, existing for Him, for His pleasure. That is bhakti. That's how bhakti yoga differs from karma yoga. And so if bhakti yoga is adopted, then there is no need to think separately about doing karma. Good.
There is a thought that is coming to my mind, not a
Yeah.
question per se.
Hmm.
And in today's context, sir, while I mean the world wherein we live in, right, it's not divided into that strata of Kshatriya or Shudra or other things, right?
Yeah.
And you also spoke about the importance of samskar in choosing a profession because that
Yeah.
gives you a lot of peace and inner success, right?
Hmm.
In so I just wanted to correlate that with the business education that we do, right, in our business schools today. A lot of
Yeah.
students come to the business school because they want to change their profession. So, for example,
Hmm.
if somebody is into software application, they want to get into finance. So,
Yeah.
business schools are seen as one of the ducts to change the course of profession, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And many a times, sir, I have also done MBA, so I'm saying this from experience that sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. So, somebody, let's say,
Yes.
a software application guy who's developing some application, he goes into a field of finance after doing MBA. But after a
Yeah.
few years, he or she may realize that that is not for me, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
this is one thing, sir. And the other thing is that if you don't try something different, then how will you know that what am I meant for in life?
Yeah. Yes.
So
Yes.
that is also another thought. So where
Absolutely.
is the balance between these things, sir? I mean, knowing what you want to do until and unless you try different things, how do you come to know that what are you meant for? Is
Yes. In
my
today's,
is
I
my
agree with you.
paradox right now.
Absolutely. In today's society, what happens is how is the modern education system designed and how does it orient the students who go through it? There, the talk about one's natural liking, natural orientation is hardly present, right? It only comes sometimes. How do most people think about it? How people think about it as where can I have the most lucrative career? Where can I have a career where I can have fast growth? Where can I get a career which gives me the best returns? A majority of people think in that manner. Only a few people think, what is it that I naturally would like to do? Where is my natural liking? Where is it that I can naturally succeed? So today, where is the force of students? Let's say that, okay, by the time somebody completes their 10th standard in today's Indian education system, they have to choose between science, arts, commerce, etc., right? And so
Yeah.
people choose, and the majority of them choose science because they think that science will give them the best career, even if they don't have a natural aptitude for science subjects like mathematics. Science is primarily revolves around mathematics or biology. If you take the biology branch, then you go towards medicine. If you take the mathematics branch, you go towards engineering and pure sciences. So a majority of them, they choose science on the basis of thinking that this will give me the best possible career options in the future. Right? They don't think I am naturally suited for science. And this is how parents also orient their children, isn't it? That's how it happens.
Yes, sir.
And that is why later
Yes,
on
sir.
there is a conflict. Later on there is a struggle and a conflict. There's so much, you know, depression, all kinds of problems come because of that reason. The child struggles, the parents then become heavy on the child, right? So, so yes, what you said is correct. So to come out of that, at some point of time, the child or the person who's now reached a point in his career should reflect and say that, okay, is this the one that is best suited for me, for my thinking? Is there something else, even if it gives me a lesser income than I'm having now? Will I be happier there doing that? Will I be in an environment and in a kind of work that I will more comfortably do, and where I'll feel more fulfilled doing, right? If that comes in their way, if that thinking comes in their way, and they're able to choose that, even if other people say it's not the best choice, but they feel that that is the best choice for me, and they do it intelligently, then that is what they should do. That would be going in accordance with what the Gita is saying, going in accordance with their svabha. So we do see some people doing that. We do see some people choosing that way. And we should really respect them for doing that.
And my question was slightly different. I am at a stage wherein, so my question is for a person who is at a stage wherein his parents chose something for him or her, but
Yeah.
now when he's grown up, he identifies himself or herself as somebody else, right?
Yes.
And then they decide to change the course of their profession, do something completely different, right?
Yes.
But even if they do that, and after doing that, they realize that, I'm not cut out for the new profession that I chose. That can also very well happen, sir, right? Because
It can,
it
yeah,
can
it can
happen.
happen. It
It
can
can
be
happen.
yeah, it can happen. It can happen. Yeah.
So,
Before
I mean,
doing
given
that,
the
yeah,
world,
sorry.
yeah,
Sorry,
yes, sir,
sorry,
please go
Bhaskar.
on.
Please finish.
So, where I'm stuck, sir, is that, I mean, given the fact that we are spoiled for choices today, at least in today's world, wherein the younger generation has got so much options to choose from, unlike what was there maybe 25, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
How does one, I mean, it's very easy to get confused or not very difficult to know that what is one's strength and what is one meant to do in life.
Yeah, it's a challenge. That is why introspection, looking within oneself and asking, okay, what kind of activities would I like to do? Repeatedly thinking about it and thinking about where is such an occupation available. Of course, we should not become a victim of that phenomenon. The grass on the other side always looks greener. So somebody
Hmm.
else's profession always seems to be more attractive. It's something. So one should look at it more wisely. Looking at something wisely involves considering all the pros and the cons. When you look at the other profession where you think you will fit better, look at what are the downsides of that profession, which you may not like, which may not be in accordance with your expectations. Will you, for example, the work may be to your liking, but the people with whom you work there, the people's, in that ambience, you're going to be ultimately working with other human beings. Will they
Hmm.
also be the kind of people you would want to work with? Are they also their way of thinking, etc.? So you should first maybe socialize with them for some time, find out, talk to them, talk to other people who are in that profession to understand the cons, the negative sides of it. So by developing a more comprehensive understanding of the other profession that you want to do, you might be able to take a wiser decision to judge whether you are suitable for that or not before actually plunging into it. So that is why these changes today must be done more carefully. Jayashree, you want
Sure,
to
sir.
add to
Thank you, sir.
something? Add to that? Yeah, Jayashree also has raised her hand. Maybe she wants to add to your point.
Yes, actually, what I wanted to say is this in today's world, the profession is solely for earning money to support our body. But what Bhagavan is talking here about the guna karma, it's related to our mind, how our mind thinks. It is not connected to the social existence that we are into. So, irrespective of what we are socially, for example, I may be a security guard in a building, but what is my mind attracted to? What kind of guna I have, like honesty. If I'm very honest and I'm very, very loyal, I'm taking care of the building very well, then I have those Brahmani qualities, Brahmana gunas. and I'm very clean. I maintain my body very clean. I keep my surroundings clean. So this Brahmana guna is you can see in all professions. It is nothing to do. I mean, at least in today's world, we cannot see true Brahmana having a Brahmana guna, even from his mind or from his activities. Also, his Brahmana. It's rare to see, but it's possible to see people in different professions having Brahmana guna. So Bhagavan is speaking of those people. So irrespective of what profession you are, you can be a vice president in a big company, or you can be a security guard, or you can be a homemaker. So the guna is what the mind, the way our mind thinks is what is being spoken here, is what I understood. So the confusion won't be there, like what profession I should take, what is it okay, my colleagues are not cooperating. So that confusion won't be there, because internally how you are, what you're attracted to is what matters, and how you react to situations. So if you are in a very good company, I mean, you are, say a person is the vice president, but agitated for he or he mistreats his juniors, then naturally he doesn't have the Brahmanic gunas. But if the person is having a Brahmanic gunas, then that person will have very soft attitude, he'll be kind, he'll be very clear in his thought processes. So we can, what I understood with all about these shlokas is Bhagavan is speaking about the mind, not the social setup that we are into, because all these shlokas are timeless. These shlokas are relevant in 1940s, in 1900s, and 2040s, and going forward also. So, Bhaskar, have you understood what I'm trying to say?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, the influence of the mind is there, no doubt. They're actually speaking about it comes from the mental aspect. I think Bhaskar's question also pertained to the practical application of it. How do you actually carry it forward? How does a person make a decision when he has to change his occupation? So that is what we were grappling with. Of course, the mental aspect should be the basis on which the decision should be taken eventually. Yeah. Puneet, you have a question?
Yes, sir. So can you move to the first slide for today's class? That's
Yeah,
about
sure.
experiences and the karma equation.
Yeah. Yes.
So one back, please. One more. Oh, yes, I
This
got it.
particular slide?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
The way we have anubhav, svabha, and the karma. So my question is little long. I will try my level best to express myself.
Yeah.
This in equation that our experiences led us to the our sabhav and then karma. So we are
Yeah.
I think we are privileged that we are able to see this equation and get into our life. That but karmic, if we have to do the devic karmic activities, or we have to abstain from the uh, that devil's kind of karma, then we should follow that environment in which where we should live. We have we have to go with very good experiences, so that our sabhav should be more sattvic, not rajas and tamasic. But
Yeah.
the people who doesn't know about this thing, isn't that they are now fall into trap of destiny then? All we are studying into this class, and we are able to know this thing that our experience should be good, and then we can go for good karmas. But the people who doesn't know about this thing, they are living in those kind of environment, and they are little decline inclined towards that devilish kind of karma.
Yeah. So people who don't know about this can get dragged into that. People who know about this now should discriminate and should engage in karma, which is actually going to create anubhav, which leads to good samskaras. Those kinds of anubhav. For example, let's say you do japa, you meditate on God, you meditate on Krishna
Mm.
for 1 hour every day,
Mm.
okay, by doing nama japam. Then that creates a particular kind of samskara in you. And that samskara will give you better and better existence in the future, right? And somebody doesn't do that. Somebody engages in something else, something very, let's say, uh, himsatmak, okay, something that causes pain to others. Somebody takes pleasure in such activities. Okay, so that samskara builds up in that manner eventually. So they will eventually experience undesirable outcomes. So what exactly is your question, Puneet?
That means that people who doesn't know about this thing, that experiences made their karma, they move to
Yeah,
some certain direction.
yeah, so,
They
yeah.
are
Most people don't know about it. Yes, most people don't know about it. Correct, because
that,
they don't
that
know the shastra.
shastra, and then that
Yeah,
that is why they are doing the wrong karmas. They're
yes, yeah. So that could be a reason. Yeah, because they don't know about what the shastra says. So that is not the primary reason why they are doing the wrong things. The primary reason is their own inner ichcha and dvesha. Okay, everything comes from that, isn't it? So the past svabha, so it feeds into each other. So all that they have done in the past is a determinant of what you're going to do now. That swabha drives you towards certain things now. Somebody is born with a certain kind of swabha, and that swabha in turn feeds the future swabha by making them engage in actions which reinforce that. So it's not because they don't know Shastra. Now, if they come to know what Shastra says, then they have a choice whether to accept it or not accept it. Those who accept what the Shastra says can pull themselves out of that cycle and create a new cycle, a positive cycle, where they build positive samskaras, samskaras which are going to uplift them, okay, and create a better svabha for the future. That is possible. But those who don't know what the Shastra says at all don't even have a chance for that.
And then one small thing again, and from the last 2 3 classes and from this class only, is the we are able to know that there is Brahman in us, the God reside within us. There are 5 elements you
Yes.
talked about
Hmm.
us. Is there any
Yeah.
sense the God within us is of
Hmm.
little because of rajas and the that tamas element in us? Is that the God within us is little of a, in any sense, lesser than the ultimate God? Shri Bhagwan.
No,
It's
no,
the
it's
same.
the same Bhagavan who's, no,
Exactly.
he's not lesser in any way because the gunas don't affect that person.
Okay.
The three gunas don't affect Sri Bhagavan. He is always beyond the three gunas. Only we are influenced by it.
That
You follow? So
including you, me, and everybody has the same kind of same the God which is residing outside. The
yes,
exactly same. Not,
yes.
not in any sense.
There's
Mm, mm,
there's only one Bhagavan who resides, who's all pervading. Okay, we call him by different names. So he exists in different bodies. He exists inside each of us, inside the Jivatma, inside us. He's present inside us. So it's the same person. There's only one person. So it's the same being known by different names, and the three gunas acting upon us in different ways, different living beings, whether that person is a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, or not a human being at all. Okay, animal, insect, plant, tree, whatever. The same Bhagavan resides in all the Jivatmas. Jivatmas will be different, but he is not influenced by that. He is completely detached from that.
In that case, sir, it is becoming very difficult for particular me to disrespect anyone now. Actually,
Yeah,
because actually there are some
yes.
people they may be under some influence of prakriti, rajas, tamas. They may be performing wrong in society, but it is now becoming very difficult by knowing that everybody has a God within him.
Yes, it should be difficult to disrespect them. So therefore, don't disrespect anybody, but deal with them appropriately. If somebody does wrong thing, see, dealing with somebody or punishing somebody is not disrespect. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So don't confuse disrespect with punishment. Sometimes in the course of your work, you may have to reward some people, you may have to punish some people. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes. So punishing somebody is not disrespecting them. It's treating them as they should be treated for the action that they have done. You're doing on behalf of God, right? The universal system which God has created itself has got punishment and reward in it. So in the human context, we have to implement that in our context, in whatever way is appropriate, according to the laws in society that we are working with, or the rules of the organization that we work with, the particular departments, the norms, the protocols. We need to follow them, right? So you still respect. When you punish somebody, you respect them, and you say that unfortunately I have to punish you, and punish them. So wrongdoing is wrongdoing, whether somebody has God in them or no God in them. God is always in them. There's no question of no God in them. Even when God is present in somebody, if that Jivatma is doing something wrong action, that wrong is to be recognized as wrong only. We should not say because God is in that person, whatever that person is doing is correct. It is not God who is making that person do something wrong. It is that person's choice of activity, that person's choice by which that person is doing wrong. So that person is responsible for it. Okay. So please chant the Hare Krishna mantra with me as we do the Antya Mangalam. Om Swasti Prajabhyah Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahishaha Gobhramanebhyo Shubhamastu Nityam Lokas Samastas Sukhino Bhavantu. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Dhanyavadaha. Namaskara. Thank you for coming and please join again next Sunday.